Hi, this is Ann Margaret, welcoming you to the Ken Behrens Show.
You know, I was just thinking, Bob, maybe traveling with Ann Margaret would be okay.
Yeah, I think so. That's a different fantasy, though, right?
That would be just as good or maybe better than traveling with two other guys. Bob Greene, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Really good. It's nice to have you on the show. I just finished your book yesterday, and it is one terrific attempt at a novel. In fact, it's your first novel, isn't it?
Yeah, all summer long I'd written 13 previous books, all of them nonfiction, and I decided I wanted to try a novel, and I knew I wanted to be, if I was going to spend a year or more working on the novel, I wanted it to be something that was fun, the place I wanted to be. So as you know, Ken, all summer long is the story of three guys who go back to their 25th high school reunion in the small town where they grew up on Memorial Day weekend of a summer, and they realize that summer used to mean everything. It used to mean friendship and romance and adventure and no rules. And now we have to look at the calendar to figure out whether it's June or July. I mean, in August we can't find business associates on the phone because they're on vacation. But summer is everything. The summer is a promise. Summer is freedom. That's gone for us now. So the premise of the book is these guys decide to extricate themselves from their jobs and their families and try to give themselves one more summer in the sun the way they used to know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I send them to the Cubs clubhouse in Wrigley Field. I send these three old best friends to Elvis Presley's old suite on top of the Las Vegas Hilton.
Yeah, and some interesting things happen up there.
To an old girlfriend's surprise 40th birthday party in suburban Missouri, to a convention of dental hygienists in Atlanta. And the whole point of it is summer. When we were kids, we woke up on a summer morning, and we didn't look at our watches, and we didn't have an appointment book, and we didn't check off things we had to do. All we knew was that we were the best friends we'd ever have, and hopefully by midnight something good would happen. And that's the spirit of the novel. It's about the trip. What would happen if you could find your best friends all these years later and try to give yourself the best summer of your life?
Yeah. The main character, the person who's talking, Ben, is a person who's in journalism.
I guess we should set that up. You're right. The three main characters, the three best friends now in middle age. One is Ben Kroger is the narrator. He's a network television correspondent who is sort of reassessing what has happened to his life. The second guy is a multimillionaire through no talent of his own.
But through marriage.
Yeah, he married a woman whose father was the founder of a multinational corporation. The father-in-law died, leaving the son-in-law, one of these guys, who almost flunked math several times in high school, worth $60 or $70 million now and CEO. The third guy is a high school teacher in the same town where they went to school.
In fact, doesn't he teach in the same building?
Yep, when he goes to work every morning, he basically is teaching in the same classrooms where the three of them went to school as kids.
Yeah.
But when you're a teenager, when you're a kid, there are no real hierarchies or levels. You don't think about who has more money or less money. All you think about is your best friends. But life conspires to change that. Yet they find out that the one thing you can't buy, no matter how much or little money you have or how much or little success you've attained, is the kind of summer you had when summer was freedom, when summer meant everything. And they set out together to try to find that best friendship again and to try to find that summer.
And it sounded a little far-fetched. They had to talk the wives into it, and surprises happen along the way.
Yeah.
Marriages maybe aren't what we thought they were once we get to know each other. And people, I guess, wouldn't you agree, Bob? It's odd. I have a couple of friends that I could almost just picture when I was reading this novel. I could picture one. I have a friend who teaches in the very schoolroom, same school building that we went to school when we were kids. And I have another friend that's done very well in the business area.
That's the thing. That's nobody who I mention the premise of this to. I mean, if I say, here's the idea, what would you do if you could find the two or three best friends you ever had when you were 16 or 17, and now in middle age, if you could give yourself that summer again and try to take off with them for 3 months of freedom.
Yeah.
Nobody doesn't get it. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, older, younger. I tell people the idea, and I see it in their eyes. You know, they understand immediately. Because we're all sort of these grown-up, serious, somber people who define ourselves by our jobs and walk around in coats and ties. But if you look closely enough in people's faces, you'll see the kid there.
Yeah.
All of us are still yearning for that summer.
It's odd. Both these guys I just mentioned, I feel like I don't see them that often, but I could get on the phone today and call them and pick up a conversation like it was just yesterday.
Exactly the key. It's like you see these guys in the novel, as in our real lives, the people who are the closest to you, when you start talking, it's like somehow you broke off a conversation in mid-sentence 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm. When you go to the Cubs ballpark, and there's a realization now that things are different than they were when we were kids. There was more of a magic about the ballpark too. But once you get to go in, because of the connections that Ben had, I think it was, you get to go into the locker room and you see the players who really don't want to talk to the press, but they have to. You talk about how they're sitting with their backs toward everybody. They're facing their own little compartments.
When I decided to send these characters around the country, I realized since I never had written a novel, I was trying to figure out how to do it. And I thought I'll for the settings, I'll go back to what's always served me the best, which is reporting. So a lot of these places I went to myself to take notes before I sent these 3 fictional characters there. And the one you mentioned, in the case of Wrigley Field, I had never been in a major league clubhouse before. Been to a lot of basketball locker rooms lately, but I had never been in a baseball clubhouse.
And they don't want to call it a locker room either. It's a clubhouse, right?
Yeah, you go down there and you realize immediately it's no coincidence they call it a clubhouse and not a locker room or a dressing room, because it is a club. And it's very exclusionary. We were all kids once who at least a little bit dreamed of being big league ball players. And these guys in the majors made it, and the rest of us didn't. And it's a club, and we're not in it. And you walk down there, and yeah, you were mentioning a moment ago, because of Major League Baseball rules, you've got to let the press in there. But they all sit with facing into their lockers, with the backs of the chairs toward the middle of the room. The body language basically says, look, the rules may say we have to talk to the press, but we don't have to like it. Ryne Sandberg walked in, and I'm considerably older than Sandberg, and yet when I saw him, he seemed older than me, because when you're a kid, a major league ball player is forever older than you because he's achieved something you're not going to get. There are these 3 canisters in the Cubs clubhouse at Wrigley, and we all go to work every day. And our employers provide us with the supplies we need, whether it's ballpoint pens or floppy disks for the computers or legal pads. In Wrigley Field, there were these 3 clear canisters, and in the canisters was bazooka bubble gum. One canister there was regular bazooka, and one there was sugarless bazooka, and one there was soft bazooka. And it was one more reminder of how these ball players' lives are different than ours. I mean, they've made it to the majors, and when they go to work every day, their employer supplies them with bazooka. And so when I sent the 3 characters in All Summer Long, the 3 guys on the fictional summer trip there, I knew them by this point enough that putting them in the real Cubs locker room, I found out how they would react. And I sort of did this throughout the book because this is going to sound stupid, but I found myself jealous of these 3 guys. I would go to the word processor every night to write another chapter, and I didn't want to be writing the book. I wanted to be with them. I wanted to be in the book. And they became real to me. They became people to me. So, for example, when Ben and Michael and Ronnie on their summer odyssey show up at Wrigley Field, it's like real people reacting against what the rest of us would do if in the unlikely event that we walked into a major league clubhouse.
Yeah, the magic was gone a little bit, though. It was probably maybe a little bit better as a child, as a youngster going to watch the ball game, you said, than sitting in, say, in an air-conditioned area where there was a party going on, and it seemed so removed from the ballpark.
Yeah, they end up in the skybox, where you're right. There's a buffet going on and a dessert tray, and they're watching all like a Roman emperor, And one of the characters, Michael, the school teacher, thinks back to the minor league team in the town where they grew up. And his dad would take him to a ball game after work, and his dad would still be tired from the day at work. He'd still be in his white shirt from work. But the boy and his dad would sit halfway up the first baseline watching these minor league teams play a game that no one would ever know about in the big cities of America. And he remarks as they're leaving Wrigley Field that night that somehow it was better then, when it was just him and his dad sitting halfway up the first baseline watching a minor league game together.
Bob Greene is on the line. We're talking about All Summer Long, Bob's novel, which is out by Doubleday. Good book. We'll tell you more about it. And I want to talk to you more about this Ben character and find out how close Ben is to the real Bob Greene, all right? I want to come back.
Connecting Point Computer Center would like to introduce you to the most expandable Apple Macintosh Centris computer, the Apple Macintosh Centris 650. Designed for performance and flexibility, the Macintosh Centris 650 offers the speed and power you need to get the job done. You can use the Macintosh Centris 650's expandability to set up a system that meets your exact needs today, and as your needs grow, you can increase your computing power. The Macintosh Centris 650 comes standard with an internal hard drive and its high-speed SCSI interface space lets you add more high-volume storage devices. For performance and convenience, the Macintosh Centris 650 works with all Apple displays. For affordable high performance and expandability, see the Apple Macintosh Centris 650 at Connecting Point Computer Center, an authorized Apple dealer at 1306 East Empire in Bloomington.
Attention kids, guess who's coming back to Bob Evans Farm Restaurant today? It's Kool-Aid Man, and this summer he's bringing along his friend Oreo Man. This afternoon from 1 to 3, come have your picture taken with Kool-Aid Man and Oreo Man. Bob Evans is giving away free Kool-Aid to quench your summertime thirst, along with free Oreo Man toys. Plus, all kids will get a certificate for a free dinner. Come join the fun today from 1 to 3 at Bob Evans Farm Restaurant on IAA Drive in Bloomington.
Hello? Hi, Karen. It's me. Quick, grab your pantograph.
What? Why?
It's in there. It started today. It's New Acquaintances, the new feature in the Focus section. It's going to help singles all over Central Illinois meet each other.
Well, how does it look?
Oh, it looks great. There are a bunch of ads in here, and we can respond to any of them at our convenience. This is going to be so much fun.
Well, I gotta go. I have to get my pantograph and check out New Acquaintances. I'm not going to miss out on any of this.
Don't miss New Acquaintances every Friday, Sunday, and Wednesday in the Focus section of your pantograph. With New Acquaintances, you could be only a phone call away from someone special. It's 11:17 at WJBC, and Bob Greene is on the line talking about all summer long. There's some great observations in this book, and I'm curious as to how close that Ben character is to the real Bob Greene. Last time we talked, it was about a previous book that you and your sister wrote, and you were about to get on an airplane, as I recall. It seems to me you do a lot of traveling, don't you, Bob?
Yeah, well, and one of the main character we've mentioned is a network television correspondent, and I did for a while there. In addition to my newspaper work, I was working for Nightline, and yeah, a lot of him, I guess, is drawn from me. The life that journalist leads on the road all the time.
You know what I identified with when you were describing the phone call to the newsroom, and you know exactly, if you're in this business, you know exactly how that works. People don't waste words. It's get to the point. What's the matter here?
Yeah, that's clearly the case. It's, you know, once you go on vacation, it's like you're not there, you know, and the main character in All Summer Long calls in, and it turns out no one's even taking his messages. I think the main thing you were driving at is, you know, how much of this comes out of my life and how much of it is real. And I guess other novelists could tell you, but this is my first one, I'm just sort of learning as I go along. I guess other novelists could tell you that everything comes out of yourself. I mean, he's not me, and the other characters are not exactly people I know. I grew up, the fictional town in the book is Bristol, Ohio, and I grew up in a town called Bexley, Ohio, and they're very close to each other. But he's not exactly me, and everything does come out of you. This is strange. Now that All Summer Long is in the bookstores and now that people are reading it, I have this irrational urge to pick up the phone and call the three guys and see how they're doing, and they don't exist. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like I had such a wonderful time sending them this on this summer trip that I'm sorry it's over, and I want to know how they are. And it's a real strange feeling because you create these characters and they become very real to you, and at least in the case of these three guys, they become your friends.
I was laughing out loud when I think I got to page 240, where you're talking about these observations about what happens when you get old.
You want to read? Go ahead.
I don't even have it in front of me now. Do you have it? There are some of them like when you're getting old when you're in a public place and you ask them to turn the music lower.
Let me find it. It's called The Litany of Adult Experiences.
Yeah.
And the point is, these are things, if they told you when you were a kid, you wouldn't have to go through them. I'll read a couple. Like, cops are going to start looking young to you.
Is that true or what?
You think it's frightening how hard football players hit each other. You get glasses, then someone says, no, that's too easy. The fact is, when you get glasses and you order 2 pairs because you know for a fact you're going to lose one. You're proud that you always are asleep by midnight on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Leave concerts and ball games early so that you can beat the traffic. You become compulsively interested in articles about the causes of lower back pain. Forget where you put your keys. Your sister is a grandmother.
Yeah, I can just see these guys trying to top each other as they're driving along.
Yeah, because it's funny. When you're 17 or 18, life lies ahead of you. And as you get older, you realize, if someone would have just given you a list, you wouldn't have to go through this stuff.
There's a great, the book goes through some interesting twists, and you tie all the loose ends up really neat at the end. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it does have an unusual and surprise kind of an ending, and I Well, I have to tell you, it's a really moving book. It has its humor and it has its warm moments. I don't know, what kind of reviews are you getting on it?
They've been real nice. I mean, it's hard to complain when people say it's a perfect summertime novel. You know, it's
Boy, it is.
It's like, okay, I'll take that. But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Ken, which is that nobody doesn't understand it. I mean, we're all so driven by the destinations in life, by the goals, the places we have to get, both literally and figuratively, that it's like when you say to people, forget about the goals, what about the trip? You know, what about the trip itself? Why? The idea of waking up on a summer morning and you're with your best friend you've ever had and you thought you'd never have a summer like this, because you're never going to be 17 again. That we can't get back.
Mm-hmm. It's just, it's the kind of trip. I went camping with these guys I was telling you about out in Colorado, and boy, much of the same feelings started happening in my mind, I guess, when we were out there traveling together. It was great, and I'd like to be able to do that again. We probably didn't have the money that we do now. We could afford to travel to some of these places. And yet, because of that Ben character, you wind up getting into the Elvis Presley suite. Have you actually been in the Elvis Presley?
Actually, that's another one. We talked about how I reported the Wrigley Field thing. I wanted to send these guys to Las Vegas. And when Elvis was alive, they built a suite for him on top of the Las Vegas Hilton. I mean, it was, you couldn't put Elvis in a regular room.
Yeah. Were you actually describing what it was like up there?
It's still there. You can't rent it. I mean, you can't go up there and say, I want the suite. It's 5,000 square feet. It's twice as big as the average two-family home in America.
And do they really steal the plate off the wall that says the Elvis Presley suite?
That's all based. I mean, I went up, in order to send the three characters and all summer long to Elvis's suite, I went out there and I stayed there for a week. And I lived in Elvis's suite. And so when these three guys arrive in Las Vegas, everything in the backdrop of what they do there, they're fictional, but everything in that suite is how it really is.
Yeah. That's an insight into what it must have been like for the king of rock and roll. Not all that pleasant, really.
It's strange to wake up in Elvis's bedroom, on top of the Las Vegas Hilton. And when these three guys in the novel wake up in that suite, they're waking up in the real setting. Everything in that chapter is based on what it's really like up there.
Yeah. You brought up a little thing at the fair. You went to, where was the fair again you visited?
State Fair.
Yeah, and you got there, and I'd forgotten about this, but when I was a kid, they used to have, like, sewing machines set up at some of these booths, and they would sell felt hats. Yeah. And you could get your name with red thread, your name embroidered on this hat before they sold it to you, and they usually had some kind of dumb feather. I don't remember seeing those. How in the world would you remember some of this stuff?
See, that's another thing, Ken. To me, the Ohio State Fair, and I think a lot of state fairs take place in August, at the end of the summer. And I wanted to send these guys to a state fair at the end of the summer, because as a kid, I always went there. So before I sent the fictional characters there, I flew to Ohio, and I went in middle age to the midway of the Ohio State Fair. Here I am walking down the midway, wearing a tie. But I wanted to see what it was like, and it occurred to me that the state fair always meant two things at the same time. The first was summer's almost over. Mm-hmm. Because, when the state fair comes around in August, you know that summer is ending. But the more important signal is that as long as you can go to the fair in the morning, as long as every day you can walk onto that midway, summer's still with us. We still have summer. And I walked and I took notes and I tried to put myself in there, and I realized that in all summer long, it's going to serve as a symbolism for these three guys. I mean, symbolism is sort of a heavy phrase for a book that's really fun, but it's going to mean one thing. It's going to mean, their summer trip is about to end. But more important, they're at the state fair, and they're still trying to hang on to summer, the summer of their lives. And I'm glad you like that, because to me, the little observations about what it must be like when you're in middle age to walk that fairgrounds and see things, a lot of them the same things that were there when you were kids, but now you're seeing them through an adult's eyes.
Yeah, and how it changed. You talk about the little, the PA system that sort of drowns everything out with one central...
Now official corporate sponsors of the state fair making announcements. It's a real sweet chapter. I'm glad you like that one. It's
11:25. We're talking about All Summer Long with Bob Greene. I want to break for another commercial announcement or two, and then we'll be back to talk more about... this is really a terrific book. More about it.
Everyone agrees that a convertible is the perfect car for cruising the Italian Riviera or getting a tan at Malibu. Saab, however, believes a convertible should do far more than that to justify its price. So in addition to spirited performance, the Saab convertible also comes with features seldom found in open cars, like a generous adult-sized back seat, an automatic top that's lined and insulated for Swedish winters, and front-wheel drive and ABS for superior traction and control in any weather. all of which makes the Saab convertible perfect not just for racing along sun-splashed beaches, but also for the snowy hill climb, the pothole slalom, and in general the Grand Prix of everyday life.
See thousands at Uptring Saab in Washington. Own a new Saab convertible with 0% 48-month financing. But you must hurry. This is a limited time offer at Uptring Saab in Washington.
This Friday and Saturday, Ensign Burgers will reduce the factory-suggested price on selected items of furniture by 1/2. Choose from a large selection of sofas, chairs, sleepers, recliners, roll-top desks, mattresses, lamps, occasional tables, and more. And then reduce the factory list price 50%. Hurry, sale ends Saturday. Remember, all items are not included in this sale. Delivery is free. All sales are final and as is. Hurry to Ensign Burgers Furniture in downtown Bloomington.
LaSalle Speedway presents the United Midwestern Promoters Summer National Series this Sunday night, sponsored by Lynn Chevrolet Buick Geo and Pontiac. This will be your chance to see the top national stars compete against the best in Illinois in a 50-lap feature, paying not $3, not even $4, but $5,000 to the winner. This is one of the must-see races for 1993. LaSalle Speedway is easy to get to. Just go north on I-39 to U.S. Route 6, exit 57, and turn right. Racing begins 8 p.m. Sunday night at LaSalle Speedway. The Summer Nationals, Sunday night, LaSalle.
11:27 at WJBC. Bob Greene is on the line, author of his latest book, which is a novel, and it's a good one. You know, Bob, he may have left us here for a second. It's 11:27 WJBC when he comes back on here.
Hey.
There he is.
How are you?
There he is. I was just thinking, I interviewed Orson Bean, I think it was a couple of years ago. And he made some comment about some sign. He said, you know, you see these signs on the backs of vehicles that say, I'd rather be sailing. And he said, you know, I have very little respect for people who have signs like that on. If they want to be sailing, then why aren't they sailing, you know? This is one of those books where, yeah, you'd like to take a summer vacation with friends. Why not do it? And you do it, and people can make drastic changes in their lives. And
Yes, though, I mean, it's... Everyone who's reading this book is telling me, you know, I'm going to do that with my own best friends next summer. And they probably won't.
no, because it takes a real commitment, doesn't it?
Yeah, and well, you've got your commitments. You've got family and job and deadlines. But I think it'd be great if some people do it as they're telling me they're going to do it. I don't know that they will, because the real world doesn't. That's why it's a novel. That's why it's fiction.
Yeah. Well, there are moments here where we wonder about Ronnie. Ben wonders about Ronnie. Do I really tell him what I think? You know, it's like we're friends, and yet I don't like what he's doing.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time writing this, and I hope people have a wonderful time on the trip.
Yeah, it is really good, and well, good luck with it. I bet it does really well.
Well, I hope so, and thanks for, you know, I hope those of your listeners who read all summer long will leave with the same feelings I did, which summer means something again. You can get it back.
Yeah. Do people tell you that it emotionally moves them at the end?
Oh yeah, I've been getting wonderful. I mean, I'm just getting wonderful responses from readers. It's like they're on the trip.
You know, you read some books and there's kind of like a little letdown at the end, or a little disappointment. It didn't work out the way you want. This is one that really, boy, it's a feel-good book, and you wind up thinking about it when it's all over.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Bob Greene of the Chicago Tribune, talking about his new book, All Summer Long, published by Doubleday.